I got the name of the head of the Klan in Maryland. And I managed to get a phone number for him and an address. I had my secretary give him a call and tell him that she worked, now she's a white lady, and tell him that, I only mention that because it doesn't matter to me, but it matters to my story, and tell him that she works for somebody who's writing a book on the Klan. Would he consent to sitting down and interviewing with her boss? He said, yeah. Now, the reason I had her call is because I figured if I called, he might pick up in my voice, that I'm black. So I'm not talking to you, click. And my whole project would have ended before it even got started. So I had her call because I knew that he would know by her voice that she was white. And I also knew that it would not be the first thing that comes into his mind that this white woman was working for a black man, okay? So that would increase my odds. And then obviously, if he agreed, he would see that I'm black when he met me. And then he could decide then and there if he wanted to talk to me or not, right? Okay, so she called him. He agreed to do this interview. We agreed to meet in this hotel room. And Mary and I got there super early. I gave her some money, sent her down the hall to get some soda pop, put it in this bucket of ice, get it cold for my guests. And I got the room all set up, had a little coffee table here with a chair on one side for the Klan leader and a chair on this side for me. We waited. Now the room is situated so if you people are in the hallway and the doorway is here, you have to walk in the door, turn to your right, and the room is back here where you cannot see who's in the room from the hallway. You got to come halfway in. So I set up over here in the corner where you had to come into my room before you saw me. Right on time, 5:15. Mary hops up and runs around, opens the door. I'm seated back here. In walks the Klan leader with his bodyguard, known as the Nighthawk. All right, he comes in. The Nighthawk came in first. Klan leader behind him. Nighthawk had on military camouflage fatigues with the Ku Klux Klan insignia right here, which is a red circle with a white cross and a red blood drop in the center. Over here were the initials KKK. On his beret, on his head, was embroidered Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, and right here he had a gun in a holster. He comes in, the Klan leader comes in behind him. As soon as they saw me, they froze and almost bumped into each other and stumbled around the room. Well, I realized what was going on. They're looking for a white guy, and they got me. So I stood up and I went like this to show I had nothing in my hands, no need to fear me. And his name was Roger Kelly. I said, hey, Mr. Kelly. I said, I'm Daryl Davis. And I walked forward, put my hand out. He shook my hand. Now, I was told not to fool with Roger Kelly because Roger Kelly would kill me. And I was told that by a couple different people. But there he was right there in my room, in my hotel room. He shook my hand. The Nighthawk bodyguard shook my hand. I said, come on in, have a seat. Mr. Kelly sat down. On one side, the Nighthawk stood at attention to his right. And before I could sit down opposite them, Mr. Kelly says to me, Mr. Davis, do you have any form of identification? I said, sure. I gave Mr. Kelly my driver's license. He said, oh, you live on such and such street in Silver Spring. Well, now that had me a little concerned. He didn't need to know my address. I didn't need him coming to my house to burn a cross or whatnot, right? But I didn't want to let him know that, I had raised a little bit of alarm inside. And I said, yes, Mr. Kelly, that is where I live. And you live at, and I named his address. That way I was leveling the playing field. In other words, if you come visit me, I might come visit you. So let's be cool. Let's just confine all our visiting to this motel room. Well, he understood, nodded his head, he smiled. I didn't realize it, but I really had no reason to fear him at that moment. But I had no way of knowing that at the time. One of his Klan members lived right down the road from my house. I didn't know that. Mr. Kelly would have to go down my street to get to this guy's house. So that's why he recognized the street name. That was it. And today, that same Klan member who lived down the road from me is in a federal prison for committing a hate crime. But anyway, so we started questioning. I started my question process. Mr. Kelly was answering questions, and nobody got rude or violent. Every now and then, he might get loud and say, well, Mr. Davis, the Bible says, or whatever, because the Klan claims to be a Christian organization, and they claim that the Bible preaches racial separation. Now, I've read the Bible. I've never seen anywhere in there where it says blacks and whites have to be separate. So I had a little bag beside me by my chair that had, blank cassettes and my Bible, all kinds. So every now and then I would reach into my bag to pull out a blank tape to put in my cassette player or pull out the Bible. But every time I reached this way, the Nighthawk would reach this way. And after a while, he realized there was no threat in the bag, and he relaxed. Well, everything's going along pretty good, and all of a sudden there was a noise, and we all jumped. And I knew that Mr. Kelly had made that noise. I didn't know what that noise was, but I perceived, because I knew he made it because I didn't make it. But I perceived it to be an ominous, threatening noise. And all I could hear in the back of my head was, Daryl, don't fool with Mr. Kelly. Roger Kelly will kill you, what I was told. And I kept thinking, what did I just do? What did I just say to cause him to go off and make some weird noise? But at the same time, I went into survival mode. When you feel that you are under attack, people do one of three things. Either they freeze up and they can't move, and people just beat on them and they just stand there just frozen because they don't know what to do, they're immobilized. Or they try to run away from the danger. Well, you can't run too far in a motel room, especially when somebody has a gun. Or the third thing you do is you go on the attack. You try to attack the source of the danger. Well, I went on the attack. I came up out of my chair, and I'm getting ready to come across that table and take down the Nighthawk and Mr. Kelly, slam them both to the ground, and take away the Nighthawk's gun. I was unarmed. I knew my secretary was unarmed. The only person that I knew who had a gun in that room at that moment was the Nighthawk, because you could see it right here in his holster. I didn't know if Mr. Kelly had a weapon under his jacket or not, but I wasn't taking any chances. I came up, and I'm about this far from Mr. Kelly, and my eyes locked with his eyes. I didn't have to say one word to him. I knew that he could read my eyes. I knew that he could hear my eyes because my eyes were shouting that loud. They were saying to him, what did you just do? And Mr. Kelly's eyes had locked with mine. I could read his eyes like telepathy. He was saying to me, what did you just do? His eyes were. And the Nighthawk was like this, looking at both of us. What did either one of y'all just do? Right? Well, Mary, my secretary, was sitting on top of the dresser. She realized what happened. The bucket of ice started melting and the cans of soda started shifting. That was the noise. And then it made it again. And we all burst out laughing at how ignorant we were. But there was a lesson that was taught that day. That lesson may not have been learned that day, but the seed was planted. It was taught that day. And the lesson is this: ignorance breeds fear. All because some foreign, and underline or underscore, circle the word foreign, entity of which we were ignorant, that being the bucket of ice and cans of soda, entered into our little comfort zone, unaware of us. We became fearful of each other and accusatory. So ignorance breeds fear. If you do not keep that fear in check, that fear in turn will breed hatred, because we hate those things that frighten us. If you do not keep that hatred in check, that hatred will then breed destruction, because we want to destroy those things that we hate. Why? Because they frighten us. But guess what? They may have been harmless. We were just ignorant.